Recently I've been perfecting my latest project, which is the RGB controller for contact printers or enlargers. But it's not just for that, you could actually program it to be used for quite a lot of things. For example, you could probably drive 3 motors with it if you wanted, or just drive an even higher power RGB LED for some other application. It's not limited to just that. It's the first PCB I've ever designed, so it's got various problems, like I wasn't able to get some data lines to the LCD just in one trace. I had to make these sort of bridges here, which would just be bridged over by wire. It's got a little bit of surface mount going on, and yeah, this is basically it. So here is that same circuit board in 3D augmented reality. And here it is after it arrived from GLPCB and I populated it with components. So we'll power it up. I've got this sort of power supply here, buck converter thingy, and that's just to regulate the voltage so that if I was to power this off a battery, if the battery was to run down, it actually changes the colour balance of the RGB LED a bit, so it's just to keep the voltage stable. It's outputting about 16 volts, so we can power it up. Now there is a backlight, but it's very dull amber, so that you can use this in a dark room and not actually fog the film. So, what I've got here is an RGB LED, and I've got resistors on each channel, like for red, green and blue. I've got the resistors for that, but I haven't figured out the proper values yet, because on full power with red, green and blue set at full, the LED still does look strongly blue, so I'm still working out resistor values. So we can just switch this on. You can't see it just now, but there's different time settings here. I've not finalised it for what time settings I want, but you can choose, like, I'll go in for 2 seconds like this, and that's just basically for like exposing film in a contact printer, or if you were to mount the LED in an enlarger head maybe. You've got time options there. I've also implemented a nice feature, continuous, so it just stays on all the time. And while on continuous, I can adjust the colours using these 3 potentiometers. But as you can see, when they're all up full, the LED still does look far too blue, so I need to work out resistor values. But this is pretty much what we have. It just shows you the value of what you select for each channel, and the reason it goes from 0 to 255 is because that's how the digital to analog converter in Arduino works. It has 255 different levels, so, well, 256 if you include 0, whereas the analog to digital converter has 1024 different levels, so I had to map it to the digital to analog converter. So these were the results I was getting from the contact printer using that LED light source, and as you can see, they're mostly brilliant looking actually, but the contact printer is just really difficult to use, and it actually scratches up my negatives sometimes too, so I'll find a better way. This is a Jessop's film and slide duplicator, and it takes strips of negatives, so I'm going to use this instead because it's much gentler on the negatives, and plus I don't get alignment issues, because with the contact printer I have to use that in complete darkness, and I have to cut notches in the edges of my negatives to try and figure out where the negative actually is in the enlarger, and it's just too much hassle. But the problem with this is it restricts the light so much, basically compared to the contact printer, because this uses a lens. So I reckon the lens must be about f4 or f5 or something like that, because I did a test of it. Normally with this I would use maybe a 2.5 second exposure in the contact printer. I tried doubling that. I did a test with this, I doubled it to like 5, 6 and 10 seconds, and I'll show you the results that I got. Absolutely nothing, except from when I took all the film out of the thing completely and just sort of put the holder for the smaller APS film in with no film in it. And then I did like a 10-second exposure, and that didn't even come out black. So these duplicators really do restrict the light. But it is strange, there is absolutely nothing on this film apart from that. I tried all sorts of different negatives. The longest exposure on the negatives was like 10 seconds, and there's just utterly nothing. So I guess I've got a nice useful piece of practice film here. So this is the setup just now. It's just on top of a tripod, and that was what I had in front of the slide duplicator. This is a 10 watt LED, but I reckon I'm going to have to go all the way to a 100 watt LED, and they run on 36 volts, so that means that this controller is going to have to be redesigned a bit, because it's currently using a linear regulator, and that only takes about 30, that can only accept about an absolute maximum of about 35 volts, so that will have to be removed, and the 5 volts will be supplied by just one of these little step down converter modules, and the 36 volts will go directly into there, and then I'll still have to work out resistor values. So I've got all that ahead of me as well.